Hello everyone and welcome to this week's After Effects scripting tutorial. In this one I'm going to show you how you can make a script that easily interfaces with FFmpeg so that you can quickly render your already rendered stuff out into whatever format and settings using FFmpeg. With this script we'll be able to simply run it, and it's going to process our active composition. And what it's then going to do is firstly render out that composition. So even if you have effects and all that, it's going to use a standard After Effects render, and that's going to export it to your desired location. And once it's finished rendering out of After Effects, it's then going to use FFmpeg, the executable file, in order to convert it. Do note that when you do render things out of After Effects with the script, you often get this freezing behavior, but we just finished the render and now it's executed some code to convert this MOV file we exported from After Effects into MP4, which I've chosen as my FFmpeg output file. And finally, once it's done with the FFmpeg portion, it's going to remove that original After Effects rendered file, leaving you with only the MP4 or chosen format you selected. So that's how this script is going to work. We're going to code it from scratch and show you how you can include FFmpeg and call your system to execute FFmpeg commands. Before we get started, I do want to remind you down below, hit subscribe and the bell icon to be notified of new videos coming out twice weekly in the channel, and down in the description you can check out the code for this in the GitHub link, try it out for yourself, make modifications, and include it in your own projects if you wish. Make sure you follow us there for coding updates, and in the description follow us on Instagram for other live updates. If you're not already a member of our Discord server, you can come and join and get help with scripting, extensions, plugins, expressions, submit tutorial ideas, and much more. And if you'd like to help support us on YouTube, you can do so by becoming a member, supporter, premium supporter, or VIP. Link for that is in the description down below. So if you're not already aware, FFmpeg is just a super useful and free video and audio converting application. It has super easy to use instructions for some cases and tons of customization if you want to take it that far. So we need to download a Windows and a Mac version in order to be able to access those and basically run commands from our script into FFmpeg. So if you have a Mac, you'll want to get the Mac version and download the zip here. And then once you download and unzip it, you'll have this FFmpeg file, which is basically the Mac version of an executable. And if you have Windows, you'll want to click on Windows and get one of the builds. Let's just go ahead and download the git full.7zip, and I'll make sure I download that. And same thing with the Windows version. Once you download it, you can go in, you can see we have in the bin folder ffmpeg.exe. You'll want to put both of these files for Mac and Windows in the same folder or a similar folder to your script. So now let's go ahead and start the script so we can figure out how we need to set this up. First, I'll just make sure I set the language to JavaScript extended. This will be our FFmpeg script. Now we're just going to go ahead and save this immediately off the bat, and I'm just going to call this test, and we'll put it maybe in my documents. And actually, I'll just make a folder called FFmpeg testing, or just FFmpeg, and we'll use this to store everything. So I'll go ahead and save my JSX file in this FFmpeg folder, and then I'll navigate to my FFmpeg exe file I just downloaded, go back into my FFmpeg folder in my documents, and paste it. Now, because we have a script in this folder, we can easily look up the folder the script is in and reference our ffmpeg file.exe to run FFmpeg commands. So we're not going to create a UI for the script, but we're going to make one assumption in order to run it, and that is that the user has a composition open, basically an active comp, and it will render normally however it would render out. So I'm going to call a function called render active comp, and that's going to be our main function here that simply takes our comp and renders it first out of After Effects and then out of FFmpeg. So we'll go ahead and call that, and the first thing we need to do is get our composition. So I'll say comp is equal to app.project.activeItem, the standard way of getting whatever composition is active if one is. Now we need to add this comp to the render queue. So I'll create a render queue item variable and make sure I spelled this right. We'll set this equal to app.project.renderQueue.items, and we're going to add our comp. I also want to create a variable to define the location where I want to render everything out of. For this simplistic tutorial, I'm going to hard code it, but if you wanted to, you could have inputs on your UI or whatever to get a path. So I'm just going to say var render location is equal to the full path, which would be C users Nate L desktop, and I have a folder on my desktop called render, which is what I was using in the previous example. I'm going to delete the MP4 file in there, and now we have this empty folder. Now we need to get the module information. So when we add this to the render queue, the next thing we want to do is change our output module to a decent format. In my case, I have this MOV Cineform Q5 or max quality version, which I'm going to use. And the way we're going to do that is by saying var module is equal to our render queue item. And I'll grab the output module index 1. I believe with output modules, they start at index 1 and you don't use brackets, you use parentheses. So this is how we can get the very first output module here. Because of course you can duplicate this and have many output modules, we just want to grab the first one. And then I'll say module.apply template. And the name of our template once again is MOV Cineform Q5. So I'll put that in as a string. Cineform Q5, and that will apply that preset to that particular module, switching it from lossless over to this. That's the format I want to export it as. Now we can choose the location to export. So to choose the location, we'll simply say module.file, and then we'll define a file object of where we want to save it. So I'll say file, and we want to render this to our render location plus our comp.name. We want to render it out as a file with our composition. But our render location, if we were to just give it this, it would say render and then our composition name. We need to put a slash so it understands text after this is going to be the file. Otherwise, it would just be basically a file called render plus comp name without the slash. So we need to make sure we add a slash in there. And then we can also give it the extension of whatever template we've chosen for our module. So now it will go ahead and create a file in the render location with our comp name, and it will automatically give it the file extension of whatever template we're giving it, in this case MOV. Then we simply want to render this out. We'll say app.project.render. This will initiate the render queue, pressing the render button, and we need to do that because we're going to first export this MOV file or whatever format you choose to our desired location. Then we're going to send an FFmpeg command to take that file and convert it to whatever we want. So after it's done rendering, that's when we want to initialize the next stuff. We're going to create a variable called path to FFmpeg. Now this is going to be found using the path to our script. We can get this by saying alert global.file name, and if I go ahead and run this, and actually I'm going to remove the render first so we don't get stuck, save this and run it in After Effects. As you can see, I get documents ffmpeg test.jsx. That's giving us the path to our JSX file, and from that we can actually get the path to our FFmpeg exe file to initialize FFmpeg. We simply have to cut off everything after this last slash here. So the way I'm going to do that is by taking, I'm going to set our path to FFmpeg equal to our file name dot slice from the beginning to our file name dot last index of our slash. That's going to give us a chunk between the beginning of our string and the last time it sees that slash. Now if we go ahead and alert our path to our FFmpeg, we will now get just documents FFmpeg. We know that's the folder we're in. Now we need to add the path of ffmpeg.exe. So to do that, we'll simply add to the string. We'll say plus slash, or what we can even do is say -1 to keep that slash and just say ffmpeg.exe. If I save and run this, I'm going to get this, but I'm missing, it looks like, So it looks like we need to not use the -1. And let's just go ahead and add in our own slash. So it shouldn't be -1, it should be +1 to include that slash. And now we have documents FFmpeg, ffmpeg.exe. And actually it is in lowercase. I'm not sure that makes a difference, but we'll just put it like so. Now that we have the path to our FFmpeg file, we can basically use it like we would normally through the command line. And the way we launch a command line argument or command in a script is by saying system.call_system, and then we need to feed it basically our entire command. The basic structure of how this needs to go is the path to our FFmpeg file. Basically, the first argument is going to be that path so that it knows what executable to run. Then the next thing we're going to need to give it is an argument I. This is going to tell us what the input file for the program is. Then we need to give it the path to our output video. The path to our output video is the same as saying our render location. We know it's in this render folder here, plus our comp.name, but we also need to give it the file extension. So to get the extension, I'm going to go ahead and say under module.file, var extension is equal to our module.file.split. And I'm actually going to split a path to the file, not the file object itself. So fsName to get the full path. We're going to split it by the dot. There's going to only be one dot in the file. And if we grab the second index, or the first index in this case, of that string, it's going to give us the file extension. So we can then add extension to that. So this will give us our render location plus our comp name plus our extension, giving us C users natel desktop render compname.mov. And that's the file we just rendered. And the final argument we're going to be giving this FFmpeg call is the output file name. For this, we can really say whatever we want, but ideally you'll want to basically say comp.name plus whatever else you want, in this case .mp4. And we also can provide that with our render location to make sure we choose specifically where we're going to be saving that. Now all these are not going to obviously just work in this formatting. So what we need to first do, we're going to enclose everything in quotes. But this isn't quite the way I want to do it. In the original example, what I use is a escape quote so that we can insert a quote into the code itself. Then I'll close out that quote. We're going to add our FFmpeg path. So we're starting our entire string out with a double quote. It has this escape character so that it will actually display instead of just containing a string. So we have a double quote, our path to FFmpeg. Then we need to add a space. We're going to add space. And then our input. What is our input going to be? Space. Then we're going to add our render location, comp name, and actually we probably want to add, and we're also going to actually want to terminate this double quote before our I. So escape character double slash or double quote. We want to start our next string with a double quote. We will escape. Then we will add some string. Then add our render location plus our desired MP4 name. We're again going to use escapes here. And this will basically surround all of these path strings with actual double quotes. And then finally, we will end after our MP4 with another escaped double quote. Now, to actually see if this works, I'm going to copy and paste this whole thing and alert it. Go ahead and comment out this call system itself. I just want to take a look at the command. So I'll run this in After Effects. You can see this is now how our command is being interpolated. You can see because we used those double quotes escaped with a slash, they now appear in the string as we alert it. So we have reference to our ffmpeg.exe file. Our input video is this full path, which our img is missing a .mov. That's good to know. And this path here, which is going to be our output file, .mp4, looks good. So we need to add a dot to our extension. I can simply just say dot in a string plus our module split at that extension point. Now let's go ahead and uncomment our call system. And let's see if we can get this to work. I'll make sure my renders folder is empty. This is renders, not render. That's good to check too. And I'll uncomment my app.project.render. Now let's go ahead and run this. App.project.render is undefined. That is correct because it should be app.project.renderQ.render. Go back in here. I'm going to go ahead and clean up the render queue since I added a bunch of stuff. Open up my composition, run in After Effects. As you can see, we now start with our After Effects render. If we look inside of our chosen folder, we have our MOV file being rendered directly into it. Again, when you do render things with a script, it will lag and appear like it's not working, but now we have our rendered out video in our chosen location. I believe I am having a problem here because it gave me an error. I skipped over it, but it definitely is not running the FFmpeg part to convert this. So something I think might be wrong with one of our paths. And indeed it is. When I alerted this path to FFmpeg previously, it gave me the relative location to my desktop, which looks like this, and we need to actually give it the full path. But one cool trick you can do is you can say file relative path to your desktop, and this will give you, of course, relative path to your desktop. But if you want to get the full path before that, you can simply say .fsname and it will provide that. So we'll go ahead and take our path to FFmpeg, put it in a file object, say .fsname, and then we'll replace that. There's always these certain characters, %20, which need to be globally replaced with a space. And that should be good now. Let's go ahead and clean our renders folder, clean our render queue, run this. We'll wait for the render to complete. And now that the render is complete, I don't know that we're running again. Let's go ahead and update our alert with this entire string. There is one more step, which is to delete this original MOV file so it looks like it never was there. But we want to make sure we get the render working first, as that's a little bit more important to have the FFmpeg part working. So we'll try and render this again, and we'll see what the alert message of our FFmpeg command path gives us. I just realized, because I removed the full path here, I need to re-include my whole path. That's where I think it messed up. So users, or username, and we'll go ahead and keep the alert up, and I'll clean my renders folder again, clean my render queue, and run. Now the render has completed in After Effects. This looks like full paths, which I think is a good thing. Click OK. And since it's still running, it looks like it's now running the command successfully to convert this video to FFmpeg. I believe it is going to always run it in the background, which is actually kind of a positive thing. But when it's complete, this loading bar should finish. And now we have our MP4 file of whatever clip we chose. The last thing would be to remove our original file again, that MOV file. The way I'm going to do that is by saying file object.remove. And the file object I'm going to remove is going to be in our render location. We're going to add our comp.name, and we're also going to add our extension. Now this should go ahead and remove the file that After Effects rendered out itself. So I'll clean up my renders folder one last time. I'll clean up my After Effects render queue, run this, and we'll see how it does. Okay, there's the After Effects render. Now we're moving on to FFmpeg doing its thing. And when that is complete, which should be here shortly, it's going to remove our original video and leave us with just the FFmpeg version we chose. And that's going to do it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, hit the thumbs up button down below, hit subscribe and the bell icon to be notified of new videos coming out twice weekly in the channel. And down in the description, you can check out this code in the GitHub link, try it out for yourself, make the couple of slight modifications that are required to do this on your Mac, simply by removing exe and making sure your path is Mac friendly. Make sure you follow us there for coding updates, and in the description, follow us on Instagram for other live updates. If you're not already a member of the Discord server, you can come and join and get help with scripting, extensions, plugins, expressions, submit tutorial ideas, and much more. And if you'd like to help support us on YouTube and get cool perks like badges, Discord status, VIP streams, and much more. You can become a member supporter, premium supporter, or VIP, link in the description. Thanks again for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time.